to go back a few years and talk about. Well, you just go ahead. And
Go
tell
back
us.
to when I did pediatrics, 1995 to 2001, and I saw a lot of kids there with meningitis encephalitis, and the comment to me and subdermal hematomas into secession was often, the comment was, I was just at the well child visit or had a vaccine. I assume that the well child visit often, because we're talking about a population, mostly I saw kids with meningitis encephalitis, 7 and below, is younger. And Neisseria meningitis in particular.
Say that again slowly.
Neisseria meningitis.
What's that?
It's a bacteria from a group meningococcal. And this is where it gets really upsetting to me because, you know, these parents would say the well child, my child was just there or had a vaccine, and it was usually within 7 days. And it wasn't until COVID that I found out about childhood vaccines. It opened my eyes. So I started researching childhood vaccines. I thought, if there's all these lies with the COVID vaccine, I better look into childhood vaccinations, and found out all the ingredients in them, which I will tell you now. They do not tell us this in medical training, and I've been a nurse practitioner for 27 years. I did family, acute, inpatient, and so, you know, all this time I'd never been told the adjuvants or the biologics in vaccines. The proteins are unbelievable. So recently I found out that a protein called OMPC, which is outside of Neisseria, it's a membrane of Neisseria, is used as a carrier protein. There's 6 licensed carrier proteins. I had no idea. So I was very upset to find out this carrier protein is in other vaccines that have nothing to do with Neisseria. Why are they using a bacteria of this type in other vaccines to carry the vaccine in? I have the papers. There's 6 of them, and they're called carrier proteins. And so I saw children die of Neisseria, because usually children die with the Neisseria meningitis. There's all sorts of meningitis, and I was told that mosquitoes cause them. West Nile virus, lacrosse. They would say, well, the mosquitoes carried it and injected the child, and so I was stuck with this. Okay, so and then Neisseria kids never usually made it out. They were usually very maimed. It was very tense. They'd come in and they would bleed underneath the skin. This is the way the bacteria works. They bleed underneath the skin, they form petechiae, and that's the first thing we'd look for. And they were dead within, it was very quick. Neisseria was a very quick death. So then I find out that that outer membrane is used as a carrier protein in Hib, Haemophilus influenza vaccine. It should not be used in that. I don't understand why they're using these carrier proteins. So this is not informed consent. So I saw these children hurt, meningitis, encephalitis, subdural hematomas. It causes bleeding. I've researched it, and I saw these kids die. And to think that it went back to vaccines and these parents don't know that, I just want the parents, at least within West Virginia, because I worked at one of the hospitals here in Charleston, I want them to know that it was not their fault. Nothing they did could have, and 2, that it's possible, very likely, that the vaccines played a huge role in this, and it needs to be brought to the medical community's attention, which I've tried, but it's a brainwash deal. They are all indoctrinated, just like I was, but so here I am telling the story.
So basically, you only just found out about the vaccine issue in the last 3 or 4 years?
Yes, it started 2021. 21 was when I first.
That's a shocker for you.
Oh my gosh, my whole career's out. I won't work anymore.
And you said the parents knew.
Yes.
But
yes.
What would it be like in that situation back in the day before you knew, for them, when they would say, but it's a vaccine?
The docs everybody told them it wasn't that. This isn't Neisseria is not in this vaccine. Yes, it was. I didn't know that as a carrier protein, or or that vaccines, the side effect is encephalitis meningitis, and people don't appreciate the subtleness of meningitis encephalitis. It can be autism, it can be you can bleed and have a subdural hematoma. I've seen parents blocked from seeing their child being accused, no bruises on their body, no injuries, but have a subdural hematoma. And of course I find out that vaccines, of course, have a very strong tendency. There's pathways in these vaccines that they affect bleeding and clotting pathways. I didn't know that. Why would you inject a child with something that can affect a bleeding and clotting pathway? I couldn't believe all the pathways that these separate proteins can affect. And it's like a downstream. These proteins will just affect different pathways, and we're talking about cancer pathways, bleeding, clotting pathways. And that's what happens with a lot of these brain injuries with these kids, autism. I mean, it can, some of the bleeding or the aluminum, we don't know what it is. We know all of this stuff injected into children is the worst idea ever.
And then their child dies.
Yes.
And then they're told, your child had meningitis or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a mosquito.
Make sure you vaccinate.
Yes. Yes, but at the time, they didn't have Menactra. And what's funny is it was in the hip, and I was seeing Neisseria. So then they come out with Menactra, and I think it was 2008, 2007, 8, something like that. This was after my time that I saw all these kids, the meningitis vaccine. So I saw all these kids with meningitis encephalitis, and they just let them go, and just, after they were injured or whatever, say, this is what caused it, mosquitoes, horse, whatever animal or insect they were blaming.
Yeah, potentially what you're saying is we were killing them with the vaccine.
100%.
That's criminal.
I have so much anger when I think about this kids, especially the cancer, because I also found that a couple of the linked proteins, one's called SRC, it's a oncogene. So these, and some of these it's fusion proteins. When they make these vaccines, they put all these carrier and fusion proteins so they can go in our body and fuse in sites. One of the sites they fuse is glial cells, neurons. Well, I saw a lot of kids with glioblastoma, brain tumors. Kids don't, and they tell them it's just genetics. Then recently they just came out and said there are no bad genetics. Suzanne Humphreys, she does a great lecture about there are no, and they say it's not our genes. We're not born with bad genes. It's the way they're expressed. And this was also new to me. They always blame the genes. Oh, it's your genetics. Oh, you're born with it. Oh, your mother had it. You inherited it. Well, come to find out, it's the expression of the gene that determines disease. And these proteins affect the way genes express. They directly interact with them. And they have no studies on them. So I'm looking at these kids who are filled with proteins that can cause cancer, and I've looked at this. I've looked at the link. The medical community really needs to take a deep, long look at carrier proteins of one of the things between the adjuvants and the biologics in it. I never knew any of this, and I will no longer prescribe or advocate for anybody to ever get a vaccination, especially children. Never. It's been a very, 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 very sad to hear these stories, to hear the last guy tell his story, which I've heard those stories over and over again about COVID. I had COVID. I was like, they tried to put me on a ventilator, and I had enough guts in me to say, don't get that near me. So I've seen this all firsthand. I worked in a hospital. And this is just, I don't know how to wake them up. I don't know how to wake the medical community up. And to think that I did this, to think that the CDC and the NIH gave me these guidelines and told me to put these shots in the baby in the first day of life. Hepatitis B, I didn't see children die of hepatitis B or chicken pox, and all of a sudden they're on the schedule. Why? Why are we having laws mandating this? And these children that I have seen die, this should this should rattle cages. This should bother a lot of people, and they just keep going. And I don't understand the complacency. I don't understand it in the medical community. But these kids the parents deserve to be told what I saw, what I heard from them. They were at the well baby. They got these vaccinations. That's the only thing different. They didn't change their food. It wasn't the food. You know, it wasn't anything else. They didn't have bites on them from mosquitoes. They said it was the vaccine. And they were reassured, not me, because I was too green at the time. They reassured the parents, no. Meningitis is not caused from vaccines. Yes, it is. It's part of the package insert. I didn't know that. But back then I was a nurse. I was a pediatric nurse.
Which particular vaccines are you talking about? All of them? Or what have you looked into?
MMR and the Hib and DTaP. DTaP has a slew of carrier proteins in it that shocked me. And the linked proteins to it. It's just, I can't even, it's the list. They don't even list this on when you go to the sites, the FDA site and the CDC site where they list biologic lists and the excipient list, adjuvant list, it's not on that because they were covered in patents. The patents are what protected them. These carrier proteins, a person that did patent research gave this to me. I wouldn't know how to do this. Doctors don't know how to do this. I wouldn't know how to do this. So then you go back and you follow patents and you realize they use these, and then they admit it. Then you look in the literature and they admit they use carrier proteins. And I'm just like, why are they putting all this extra in their military grade? This kind of stuff isn't made, and you can't handle this stuff in a drug factory. This is something that the military has to handle because they're pathogens. They're biohazards. So the military, they're helping make this. They're giving the material transfers. I've seen material transfer lists, and they're horrid, to the vaccine companies. And I was like, what are they really putting in here? I don't know what they're putting in here. So I have all these parents telling me that their children has become horribly ill, brain inflammation, after vaccination or within the well baby a week. Sometime within anywhere from 24 hours to a week within the well baby visit or vaccinations. And what they do is, well, if it's not within a certain amount of time, say 24, 48 hours of vaccines, they say, well, it can't be related to that. And that's not true, because the vaccines, the components will set up in your body, and they can trigger at any point. And we know that now. I mean, we know that they can trigger 20 years down the road, cause cancer 20 years down the road from what I've seen. And now I saw all these kids with meningitis. How were they getting it? They weren't getting it from mosquitoes or horses.
So what's your warning to the people outside of everything you've just said?
You need informed consent, and you're not going to get informed consent right now. So you need to research yourself and talk to. The biggest thing is today's West Virginia Health Freedom Day. There's a couple legislatures in West Virginia. We're one of the few states that still have very draconian vaccine mandates. Every child has to have them to attend school. There are a couple legislatures blocking bills that from being presented to the floor, which is totally unconstitutional. You don't block bills when they have to do with child health and children, and both of them are in the medical field. They're blocking these bills. Of the health committee, the chair and the vice chair are blocking these bills from being heard because they're doctors, and I don't know if it's indoctrination. I don't know what it is. Okay, I can't speak for them. Money, whatever. But I can say that these bills need to be fairly heard, because they don't have any right to mandate these shots on kids. You don't have a congressperson tell you you have to inject your children. That's not the way this works. Okay, the parent needs to decide what to do for the child after fairly hearing what's in these shots. They're not told. I wasn't told. So if I'm not told, and I had to dig to find it on the CDC site and FDA site, they have an even bigger challenge, but I'll tell you this, the parents have impressed me. They have been the ones that know everything, and that they are incredible. They will be the ones that will save these children, the parents, not anyone else, not the doctors. I don't believe the doctors will stand up. It's the parents.
I agree with that.
They are
Anything else?
incredible. No,
No,
just
thank you for your honesty, bravery, and your apology as well.
yeah, that's I'm apologizing for. I mean, fix my sins. I'll start the good practice. No, I'll just fix my sins.
Thank you.
And